Mike Malone just got fired right before the playoffs got started, so I'm hoping Lowe could provide some context as to why he got fired. Let's get it.
News just broke that Mike Malone, head coach of the Denver Nuggets, has been fired or let go of his service and duties after a really impressive 10-year stretch out in Denver that not only resulted in the most success that we've seen from this franchise, probably in franchise history, but also resulted in a championship a couple of years ago. This is a head coach, and in my opinion, really and truly got the bad end of a really bad stick. Mike Malone was fired unjustly because he had the job, the due diligence to make champagne out of bruised lemons. That's effectively what Mike Malone's job was, and we've been covering this story since the beginning of the year, and many people may question why exactly this happened. Even more people are going to question when it happened, because firing a head coach this late into the season, I'm sorry, I'm never going to be able to explain that to you, even if the head coach lost the locker room, which it seems as if like Mike Malone did. I just don't believe that you should.
Okay, for him being there as long as he's been there, I don't understand. Like especially because they kept they two man guys, right, which is Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. So that's supposed to be like they supposed to be implementing and practicing the culture that Mike Malone is putting in place. I'm assuming them those are the captains. Otherwise, they the longest tenure guys, whether they're captains or not. They got the most say in the locker room. So I'm trying to figure out how they not sticking behind him because I'm sorry, but I gotta think like it's Jamal Murray and Jokic that don't like him, and I don't think Jokic is a confrontational guy from what we seen. He just want to play basketball from what he been telling us. But hey, what do I know? So let's see.
Ever fire a head coach this late into the season never makes any sense. But the why firing Mike Malone makes a lot of sense if you start to follow this team. And again, I say that it makes a lot of sense while also knowing that I do believe that Mike Malone was fired unjustifiably. Oh, wowzers! This is happening in real time. Calvin Booth has also lost his job. Calvin Booth, general manager of the Denver Nuggets, he's fired as well.
The hell?
Now that makes sense. Hey, not only does that make sense, I can explain it to you very. I don't even have to. I don't have to start this video. I don't have to do no research. I know exactly why Calvin Booth lost his job. Okay, first and foremost, many of you all may be wondering why. Because on the surface, it seems as if like this is an organization, a team that could be overachieving 47 wins with just 3 games left into the regular season, top of a very competitive Western Conference, one of the best offenses in the NBA, and just overall a team that has been dealing with injuries all season long.
Okay, so again, why did y'all fire your head coach before the playoffs? At least stick it out, and then when the playoffs is over, make your decision. But now it seems like y'all had a successful regular season, so to speak, because based on the standings and what we just saw from Low, y'all are all right. But it's so bad that y'all couldn't even stick out the postseason. And for me, you lose your head man before the postseason, it's over with. Like yeah, to me, it seems like you conceding if you getting rid of your head man right before the postseason start, right before the second season starts. So hey, I don't know. This season been weird. Luka got traded to the Mavs. Well, Luka got traded from the Mavs to the Lakers. Weird as hell. Like ton of injuries. I don't know, bro. This is a weird NBA season.
Jamal Murray's been in and out. Actually, he's still out right now. Aaron Gordon has missed a significant amount of time, which has then forced his team to rely on younger players to kind of get them through the season. However, that's kind of the problem. The idea of them having to rely on younger players has been a part of the problem, and it has really fallen apart post All-Star break. So, in particular, how bad have they been post All-Star break? Well, they have a record of 11-13, which is a losing record, obviously, and offensively, they only have an offensive rating around 117, which is me rounding up, which is 15th in the NBA in this time frame, and a defensive rating of 118, which is bottom 10 in the NBA, again, post-trade deadline. But their defense has been a problem all season long, and that kind of brings us right into why Coach Malone was fired, and it seemed as if like there was a disconnect between Malone and some of the players in the locker. This is something that, again, if you've been watching with a very close eye, or at least watching some of the post-game interviews, Coach Malone has been very vocal vocal, open, and honest about some of the disconnect between him and a lot of those players on that roster on the defensive side of the floor. And it can only be safe to assume that he's talking about some of the younger players, as many of them, in particular Peyton Watson, Zeke Naji, Julian Strothers, have had to up their workload on the defensive side of the floor, with Aaron Gordon being out of the lineup for a good portion of this season. And a lot of that was visibly seen when Aaron Gordon had a verbal altercation with Peyton Watson just a couple of games ago, where it's very, very clear that there was a disconnect on the type of effort that was given on the defensive side of the floor that has really cratered this defense to the point where they're at the bottom of the conference. And that's not just for the handful of games post All-Star break. For the entire season, they are still bottom 10 in defensive rating. And a lot of it has to do with the disconnect with a lot of these young players. And I do believe, as unfair is what I'm about to say, because it's really, really unfair, but the truth of the matter is, if you're a head coach in today's NBA, you're going to end up losing your job if you cannot connect with your players. It is much easier to find a replacement for a head coach than it is to find a replacement for pivotal rotational players, especially some players that you've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into, that you in one day hopes are going to pan out to be pieces to a puzzle that will go back to winning a championship. And a lot of the decision makers out in Denver put a lot of investment into the young players. And at this point, because their value has tanked so much so, they can't really receive that much in return for them. So the truth of the matter is, what's going to be easier to replace with a much higher return, a head coach, or is it easier to replace some of these younger players that their value has plummeted this year due to how poorly they have played? And I do.
But I mean, at the same time, shouldn't you just like it state? I get it. Like you could get a new head coach. I'm not questioning the. I am questioning why he got fired. I'm questioning the timing of when he got fired. All right, you can't get across and can't get these younger players to play defense, right? Okay, fine. You can't get that culture to get set in place. Why do it before the playoffs? Why do it before the playoffs? Because it's again, I'm gonna say it again. You're just giving up on the season. It seems like to me. Like, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. But it seems like they just waved the white flag on them. And if Aaron Gordon can't, who is not playing, can't get another player to play, it seems like you're gonna still have that value. You still gotta prove yourself, even if it is from veteran players trying to get your younger players to play and put the culture in place that, hey, this is how we play here. You're gonna have to replace them, because we just saw an example of a veteran player who's been in the league, who's won a championship, addressing a younger player, and he talking back. Now, I don't know what said, but he been there. You haven't. Respect the vet. Take the criticism. Take the coaching. So, I mean, Lowe can say that it's harder to replace a key rotational player, but if he ain't working, he ain't working. Like, you're gonna have to replace him regardless. So you just got to keep him. You got to keep him just because of what he costs and all this other stuff. They got to put in the same amount of effort to get they value up. And something like playing defense, if that's what it is, defense is majority effort and IQ. Watching film, watching tendencies. You got veteran players on your team who've been in the league. Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon, who is a defensive player, DeAndre Jordan. I don't know if he still is on the roster, but they just showed him in the graphic. Go to them. They know what it take. They know what it take to do it, to get it done. So, like, I get it. You can replace a head coach, but you can't fix somebody mindset and mentality if they ain't willing to put in the effort on defense.
Do believe that's where Coach Malone found himself. He found himself on a team trying to get the most out of players that really were not able to live up to expectations. I also believe he found himself on a team. They were asking him to squeeze the most out of this lemon with some of these younger players. And Malone has been notoriously known for not trusting some young players. This dates back to when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the team, and he was set up to fail because Malone was not giving him the adequate opportunity and the adequate trust to invest into someone like Hartenstein, which I do believe has really hurt them long term because here we are now, and this is a team that is still banking on DeAndre Jordan minutes to try to give him a backup five so Jokic can get some rest. Like, that lack of trust has really hurt them. Then it also continued to hurt them with Zeke Naji, because this is an organization that felt as if like Zeke Naji should have been given more opportunity, especially with the contract that he received. And even recently, I've seen several games in which Russell Westbrook is closing these games, which he should not be closing these games, especially how poorly Russ has been playing as of late, which has really cost them not just 1 or 2 games, but they're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak. And I could easily point to 3 of those last 4 games they've lost to, in large part because Russ has been in moments where he should not have been in, while you also have some players on this team that could receive more PT, in particular Jalen Pickett. I believe that he should be given more playing time in certain situations, especially when you need proper floor spacing around Jokic to close out these games, especially when he's actually playing really, really well. Again, Mike Malone just doesn't trust young players. It's something that's been going on for years now. And so, again, if you are a decision maker with this organization and you believe that these young players are going to play a pivotal piece in what you believe is going to be the championship roster in the foreseeable future, and Mike Malone is not resonating with any of them, then you're going to have to move on from the coach. When you decide to do it does not make any sense, because I do believe a lot of these young players are not going to be getting any minutes in the postseason anyway, so who really cares? Why you decide to do it makes some sense to me, even though I do believe it's unfair, because I don't believe that you should be blaming Mike Malone for not trusting players that, in my opinion, has not deserved his trust. Because
Thank you. Thank you. I went on that long ass monologue explaining why if they want him to make lemonade out of lemons, and these players, and I don't want to write them off, but if they are in fact lemons, like they not working out, then what you want Mike Malone to do? What you want him to do? That seemed like a personal problem. That don't seem like a Mike Malone problem. I guess it is because he lost his job. But damn, man, like the players got to give some of the blame. You know what I'm saying? You ain't hooping.
and someone like Christian Brown deserved the trust. He earned the trust with Mike Malone.
Like
That's why
Brown.
He's in the position he's in right now as a starter. It's the reason why in the final run, Christian Brown was getting a lot of PT. Mike Malone invested. He bought in to Christian Brown. He's just not buying into a lot of these other players. And I think there is a lot of legitimate reasonings to why. If he's coming out and saying that some of these players are not watching film, then I think that's justifiable. I think that's all justifiable. But when it comes to Calvin Booth, I am not going to be that generous, because Calvin Booth is the man who put these young players in position that Mike Malone could not trust. He is the reason why. Now, to jog everyone's memory, because it was an ongoing conversation that we had on this channel before the season even began and in the early stages of the season as well. Effectively, the ongoing conversation about the Denver Nuggets this season was going to be the lack of supporting cast around Jokic, and if some of these younger players were going to develop into quality rotational pieces that this team can rely on by the time we got to the end of the season. That was the ongoing discussion. As much as Jamal Murray was playing bad, as much as Aaron Gordon wasn't going to be available, even the stretch of Russell Westbrook that he played really well in, to me, that was never going to be the conversation. The conversation and dialogue around this team was going to be, are these young players going to be able to pan out to be the players that Calvin Booth has effectively tried to sell everyone on? Because Calvin Booth is a general manager who decided to allow KCP to walk. He's the one who decided to allow Bruce Brown to walk. Decided to allow.
I thought them too. Like if you watch that finals run they had a couple years ago when they was winning it, boy, Bruce Brown was looking like, I don't know, bro. Bruce Brown looking like Diet Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, Steph, like the diet version, flashes of all of them. Boy was hooping. And KCP, we already know, proven champion. He was hooping. He was hooping for the you know what I'm saying, for the Lakers before that. And he lock up. He hit his shots. You know what I'm saying? The last postseason, he hit too many shots. You know what I'm saying? He ain't hit enough, I guess. But yeah, I thought they should have kept those two for sure. Them was two nice guards who would defend, finish at the rim, and hit a three if you needed them to. And they was older. And you know what I'm saying? So like, why not keep him? Why not keep him for another couple 2-3 years or something like that, man? Like, it ain't make sense to
allow
me.
Jeff Green to walk and not replace any of them with any competent pieces. He's also the one who has not been able to find a replacement level backup big for Jokic this entire run. And it was all done strategically to allow these things to occur because he believed that these younger players were the ones that were going to replace them and fill the role that was needed. He believed that being able to replace your fourth or fifth best player in rotation with some younger guys came with the role, came with the job. He believed a duo of Christian Brown and Julian Strawthers, or I believe it was maybe Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, was going to be the wing duo that was going to be dynamic enough to defend Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in a hypothetical finals matchup. He believed all of those things. He believed in it so much so that he went on record to say this. This is an excerpt from a Ringers article where they sat down with Calvin Booth and they decided to have a very interesting conversation. The Nuggets are making a calculated gamble of their own that hinges on the development of their young talent. They need them to help in short term and hopefully become fixtures in the future. Booth's philosophy is clear. It is better to invest in the future, even if it comes at the expense of immediate glory.
Are you crazy? You keep that core together. See, that's what it does. In history. Let's go back to the Bulls, right? And why the Bulls broke up because they thought they needed to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just run until the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always gonna be a younger player. The draft is every year. You know what I'm saying? The free agency comes every year. You know, you trying to reinvent the wheel. You run it back. You try to at least run it back one time with that core group. You try at least something. I get you might lose KCP or Bruce Brown, but at least see what happened. One of them might get a crazy offer where he gotta walk, but you thinking you trying to play 3D chess with the youth and with the thinking ahead that now you look goofy and you wasting arguably a top 5 player in the league right now in his prime playing insane at an insane level. Nikola Jokic, some shit I've never seen nothing like this before from a center, let alone anybody. Like come on now. This is the future Hall of Famer wasting his best years, wasting all of these amazing work he doing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Quote, I just want dudes that we try to develop, and it's sustainable, Booth said. If it costs us a chance to win a championship this year, so be it. It's worth the investment. It's more about winning 3 out of 6, 3 out of 7, 4 out of 8 than it is to go back to back.
You're crazy.
I effectively agree with what he is saying in some capacity, right? Especially in this.
No, yeah, like obviously you gotta be ready for the next move. But I just said like maybe you lose one or the other, and because you can't hold on to a player, then you go to the youth and you keep your eyes open. Like that's your job to stay ahead of the curve and find the talent. But willingly saying that you willing to get that you don't want to go back to back, banking on the future is crazy when you have one of the best players of all time on your team. You take away his help. Insane work, and you putting his legacy at you're doing a disservice to his legacy by doing that for your own personal thought pattern and job security, which effectively cost you your job. So I hope it was worth it.
New CBA where you're handicapped significantly. And to be fair to Calvin Booth, part of the reason why he wasn't able to sustain a lot of those players is because of the restrictions that would have came along with him going into the second tax apron, especially when it came to KCP. All of those things I understand. And I also believe that part of the reason why Milwaukee is wasting away Giannis's peak is because they have not been able to find young players to grow and develop. However, There is a lot of context that comes behind that. Heading into this season, before Jokic became vocal about adding Russell Westbrook, this is a Nuggets team that effectively their entire bench was going to be second and third players, even a rookie. That was going to be their entire bench. It was going to be a bunch of young players that had very little playing time because, again, you have a head coach that doesn't really trust you, and they were going into this season with that being on their bench. That's scary. That's also very abrasive because effectively, as we can see, anytime someone gets hurt, you're now putting a rookie, a second or third year player into the starting five with very little reps. That's crazy. So I think that's something that was not calculated properly. I, as a Laker fan, I saw the development of Austin Reeves. It took him about 3 or 4 years to get to where he's at right now, right? And even in year 4, he's still developing alongside 2 other stars. You don't have that out in Denver. You don't have that there. Same thing with Trevor Ariza, Laker fan. I saw him. You referenced Trevor Ariza before. He developed alongside 2 other stars, and the Lakers still decided to trade him to go after a veteran in Metta World Peace. I said this months ago. The reason why the Lakers were not able to extend their run is because Andrew Bynum did not develop or mature the way that many people expected him to. That's the reason why they traded him for a veteran and Dwight Howard, right? These are all things that occurred. More importantly, and I can't believe I had to say this, and this is the reason why I don't care what anybody tells me. I am all for the player empowerment movement. As soon as a general manager comes out of his lips talking about how he's not going to maximize one of the greatest peaks we've ever seen in my life, you should lose your job that day. That day you should.
That's crazy. He could say it. Shit, I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree because I think it's. And then like this is what pushes me to the staying loyal and the people who run from the grind, so to speak. When you got these GMs and owners who solely look out for themselves. I don't know who pushed this narrative. I don't know if it was a combination of the players and the media talking about, oh, like they spent their whole career here and they grinded it out and they finally got a ring and like, you know what I'm saying? And it's glorified that you stay in a place that could trade you in a heartbeat, that could trade you on a plane, on a train, at your daughter's birthday party. They could trade you anytime they want to. They could cut you anytime they want to. So it's players do what you want. Nikola Jokic. If I'm Nikola Jokic, I'm getting out of Dodge as soon as possible. I'm getting out of Dodge as soon as possible. I'm out of there. I might go back to the crib with the horses and hoop over there. Since y'all don't care about, obviously y'all don't care about my legacy. So I'm breaking my back putting up all these numbers for what?
You should have lost your job. Because as a general manager, you should be able to do both. Now, how much you decide to commit into some young players, that's a very dangerous game. That's something that costs basically a year and a half of Curry's prime over the past 2 years because they were investing a lot in B-Pods and Kuminga. And eventually, they had to wake the hell up and realize, hey, we just need to get another star. And they got Jimmy Butler there. And it's not a coincidence that once the responsibilities start to get regulated accordingly,
they should have kept Poole.
That B-Pods and Kuminga are now playing better. That's not a coincidence. They're not ready for it. You can't just shove it into their face. You can't. So the same thing with Peyton Watson, Julian Strouthers. You can't just shove it in their face. Zeke Naji, you can't do that, especially when they're not even top recruited prospects. Or maybe, just maybe, they're not good enough. That's also a part of the probability as well. And to be quite frank, when it comes to Calvin Booth, brother, the only young player that you really brought to this team is Christian Brown. Quite frankly, the only two pieces that you really brought to the team in a general sense is Christian Brown and KCP. Because before Booth got there, Tim Connolly, I think that's his name, who's now with the Minnesota Timberwolves, he brought you Jokic, he brought you Jamal Murray, he brought you MPJ, and he brought you Aaron Gordon. A lot of the team was already pieced together. You just need to put in that final piece to the puzzle. And I'm not saying that's not important because it is, but for you to even dare, and I think it's some of the most egregious thing to say, to even dare utter your lips and saying that you are not willing to maximize every single year. That is crazy. You may not want to maximize every single possession, every single game, every single stretch, but to attempt to not maximize every single year. That is a definition of malpractice. Because when you are willing to concede and punt seasons away in an all-time great player's career, this is the results. You've lost not only your job, but even your head coach job as well. And I think from there, Calvin Booth, you are, I don't even know how you even find a job after this right here, because that was a fumble of all fumbles. And it was only 3 years. Calvin Booth has only had this job for 3 years. And effectively, he has not.
Even if that was his thought process, now that I'm thinking about it, why would you vocalize that? Like, it could be one thing to be like stay super young. They're more healthy. They're cheaper. Like things like that. Things that you could have lied. You could have lied and said, yeah, this is the reason why. This is keep the younger players. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could use the salary cap thing in the CBA, like Lowe said. Just hide it under that while you think in the back of your mind. I don't mind sparing a couple years of Jokic's peak. I don't mind losing a couple seasons to develop some players when we have an all-time great player. I think it's quite goofy.
Not really done much of anything after bringing on Christian Brown and KCP, and that happened in the same offseason he was hired. Since the 2022 offseason, there's not really much that this general manager has done. So that makes sense to why he lost his job. We talked about it early on, and it has effectively caused Mike Malone to lose this locker room, and it has resulted into a wasted year of the Denver Nuggets season. Because for those who aren't watching, I don't care what the record says. I don't care what their offensive rating is, and as great as Jokic is, this NBA is too talented for us to conclude that, hey, Jokic can just take us through another deep postseason run on his own. He just can't do it. Those are my thoughts. Shout out to David Adelman. He is going to be replacing Mike Malone at the head coaching position, and still don't know what they're going to do with the general manager, but it seems as if they were going to move.
And still, like, I'm thinking about it too. You pair up a GM who's super in tune with one youth, and you got a head coach who likes vets. You couldn't meet nowhere in the middle with like some 5th, 6th year players or something like that, or get them at least a mix like that. That's insane.
Move in this direction anyway. If you were also projecting on what's going to happen next, a lot of these young players, I wouldn't be surprised if they were moved during the offseason, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised if MPJ was moved during the offseason as well, because I think that's another piece of this puzzle that has been very questionable for the totality of Calvin Booth's time. I don't know why he's still on the roster. He, as well as Zeke Naji, have really held up what this team can do from an addition standpoint due to the lack of financial flexibility with the commitments that were made to those two players. Until next time, I'll
Shout out to Low, man. Good video, dog. If you want to see more sports reactions, make sure you like, comment, and most importantly, y'all been watching the videos. The video's doing better, man. I need y'all to subscribe. The view's there, but I need y'all to subscribe. I can knock out some more videos for y'all, man. But until next time, I'ma get us up out of here. Cool.